to another episode of Stories in Cardboard. We're going to continue to look at the 1956 Topps football set, going card by card, talking about their background, a little bit of historical data about some of these cards. And again, my purpose of doing videos like this is I'm hoping people will grow in an appreciation not only for this set, but vintage cards in general, just learning about the different players and the history that's tied to them. I hope it's going to be something where people will find a passion for these cards. So today we are going to look at cards number 19 through 24. And the first card we're going to look at is number 19 of Bill Helton of the Green Bay Packers. And just a quick note, I think it's interesting to look at this. If you look at his position, it says end. Now, we today would call him a wide receiver, but in the 50s, these players were called ends. So I think just little things like that are kind of interesting to kind of take note of with these cards. Helton retired in 1963, and at the time when he retired, he was the all-time leading receiver in yards and receptions, and he had more receiving yards than any other player during the 1950s. He had the second most receptions and then the third most touchdowns in the 1950s. Twice he led the NFL in receiving yards during the 1950s, and only Pete Pihos and Raymond Berry were able to do that. And both of those guys are in the Hall of Fame. Helton twice gained more yards in a season than Tom Fears, Dante Lavelli, or Pete Pihos ever did. All three of those guys are in the Hall of Fame. In fact, twice he had more receiving yards in a 12-game season than Fred Biletnikoff, Harold Carmichael, Drew Pearson, Lynn Swann, Charlie Taylor, or Paul Warfield had. And those guys are all Hall of Famers too, and they played in 14 and 16-game seasons where Helton played in 12-game seasons. He ranked in the top 5 in receptions in the NFL 4 times, and he was in the top 10 8 times during his career. So I guess you kind of know where I'm going with this. To me, Bill Helton deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. I think it's a shame that players like him sometimes fall through the cracks, and I think one of the reasons he has fallen through the cracks is the fact that the Packers were not very good in the 50s, and this was before national TV, before they were on national TV a whole lot. But to me, his individual accomplishments outweigh the failure of his teams that he played on. And so to me, he is a Hall of Famer. Some may disagree with that, but I am admittedly one of those guys that the net should be cast wider for Hall of Fame inductees. The next card we have is card number... I'm sorry, that is the wrong card. Let's get the right one here. Number 20, Jack Christensen. And he played for the Detroit Lions. He's in the Pro Football Hall of Fame and won 3 NFL championships during his 8-year career. In addition to being a defensive back, he was also a great punt returner and returned 11 punts for touchdowns during his career, and was the first player in NFL history to have 2 punt return touchdowns in one game. And he actually did that twice in 1952, with one of those games being on Thanksgiving Day. He would later become the head coach for the San Francisco 49ers, as well as he coached in college for Stanford as well. He also served for multiple teams as an assistant coach. Now, the next card we have here is card number 21 of Pete Brewster of the Cleveland Browns. And again, he was an end or a receiver. He played 7 seasons for the Browns and 2 with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Brewster was a solid receiver for the Browns, and he played in 2 Pro Bowls during his career. He was also, after he retired, a receivers coach for both the Chiefs and the Vikings at different times, and won a Super Bowl ring with the Chiefs in Super Bowl IV. Next card we have is a team card of the Chicago Cardinals. And again, all the Chicago Cardinals cards in this set are short prints. Some of the Hall of Famers on this team are Charlie Trippi, Ollie Matson, and Dick Night Train Lane. You also have Bill and Stormy Bidwell on this card. And they became the owners when their mother passed away, I think sometime in the early 1960s. And Stormy actually sold his share of the team as he and his brother did not get along for whatever reason. And Bill Bidwell was the owner up until just a couple of years ago when he passed away. So this franchise has been in their family since 1933 when their father purchased the franchise for $50,000. And next card we have is number 23, which is quarterback Ed Brown of the Chicago Bears. Brown in college was on the undefeated 1951 San Francisco Dons college football team, and they missed out on a bowl game that year because major bowls did not send out invitations to teams that had black players. And instead of sending an all-white team, they collectively as a team decided that they would turn down the invitation. Future Hall of Famer Ollie Madsen was one of the black players that was on that team. Brown's best year in the NFL was 1956 when he led the NFL in passing, many times hooking up with his favorite receiver, Harlan Hill. And they went on to play in an NFL championship that year, but lost to the New York Giants. And the last card we have is number 24, Joe Campanella of the Baltimore Colts. I really love the orange background on these cards with the Colts, and I've always been a fan of their logo, their old school logo. I think it's really cool up there in that right corner there. Joe Campanella was he was one of the original Baltimore Colts. He played 6 years in the NFL. And after his playing days, he and Alan Camici, and they opened up some restaurants along with one of his former teammates from college. And eventually, ex-teammate Gino Marchetti would also invest in those restaurants. Now, in 1966, Campanella was hired to be the Colts vice president and general manager. After only a few months on the job, he died of a heart attack at age 36 while playing handball with Don Shula. So that's all I have for these. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope this will maybe, you see a card that might spark some passion for this particular set. Next time we'll work on some more of these, and I hope you enjoy this series. Take care, and we'll talk to you.